Okay, so we're diving deep today into something pretty interesting. Um, Someone sent us these flashcards designed for preschoolers, like 3-year-olds and up, and they're all about matching fruits and vegetables. And I don't know about you, but when I saw these, it kind of got me thinking about how we introduce kids to the world of food. Like, what are those first impressions?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, just looking at these cards, we've got like a real mix here. Some are simple drawings, others are like pretty realistic photos, but it's all about individual fruits and veggies. And then they've got these sets of three, all labeled super clearly. So it's definitely designed for interaction, like a matching type activity.
Yeah.
And they even threw in an About Me page, which is kind of cool, like trying to build that personal connection from the get-go.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's like my favorite fruit is, and you can like draw a picture or something. So it's not just about recognizing these fruits and veggies, but also about getting those kids to like think about their own preferences.
Totally. It's planting those seeds early on.
Okay, so for today's deep dive, we're going full on into this colorful collection of flashcards. We'll explore the huge variety of produce they've got here and really try to unpack what those learning objectives might be for these little ones. Ready to dig in?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, so let's start with the fruit selection. What kind of stuff are we seeing here?
Well, right off the bat, you see those familiar favorites, the fruits that are probably in most kids' everyday lives already. Like there's this bright red apple. They even put little water droplets on it, making it look all juicy and delicious. And then, of course, you've got your classic yellow banana.
Right, the staples.
Exactly. And then there's a pair of those vibrant red cherries still on the stem with the little green leaf attached. And to round out the basics, a juicy orange, shown whole and then sliced open so you can see the segments. It's like they're hitting all those foundational fruits, the ones most kids will probably recognize pretty early on.
Yeah, for sure. But it's interesting how quickly they move beyond those basic fruits. Like, boom, we're suddenly looking at blueberries, this little cluster of dark blue ones with the green leaves, and then some bright red cranberries all scattered together. So it's introducing those different types of berries pretty quickly. I'm curious, what do you think is the reasoning behind that? Why jump into berries so soon?
Well, I think it's all about expanding that fruit vocabulary early on. They establish those familiar fruits, and then bam, they're showing you that there's this whole other world of berries out there. And from there, it just keeps expanding. We move into some more tropical fruits. Some of these might be less familiar to those little ones. Like we've got a coconut shown halved with a piece taken out so you can see that white flesh inside, and a few leaves for good measure. Then there's a fuzzy brown kiwi, a bright yellow lemon, and its green counterpart, the lime.
And these are just the fruits we've seen so far.
Exactly. And think about it. Introducing this variety early on could be all about broadening those sensory experiences. Getting those kids thinking about different tastes and textures, even if they haven't actually tasted all these fruits yet.
It's like giving them a visual preview of all the possibilities out there.
Right. It's setting the stage for a more adventurous palate.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting to me. The variety just explodes. Now we're talking lychees. They show a little bunch of those. And then a cluster of longans. Those are the ones that are almost translucent with the dark seed visible inside. Then we've got a mango, both whole and sliced, showing that vibrant yellow-orange flesh. But then things take a turn. We see a deep purple mangosteen. Now, that's not something you typically see in a preschool setting, right?
No, not exactly your average preschool snack.
Right. And then there are even mulberries, so it's kind of elongated berries that can be red or almost black. So my question is, why such a diverse, even exotic selection for kids this age?
That is a great question, and I think the answer might lie in sparking curiosity. Even if a kid hasn't seen or tasted a mangosteen before, just seeing it on a flashcard can open up a whole conversation. Where does this fruit come from? What does it taste like? Is it sweet or sour? It gets those little minds working and helps them realize that there's this whole world of food out there beyond what they might see at home or in their immediate surroundings.
Yeah, it's like normalizing the idea that there's so much variety out there, right?
Absolutely.
So we've got our apples, our bananas,
Yes.
and then we're jumping into mangosteens and mulberries.
And it doesn't stop there.
Okay, so what else is on this global fruit tour?
Well, next up we have a nectarine, that smooth-skinned relative of the peach. And then, get this, green olives, still on the twig with the leaves, I mean, some people might not even think of olives as fruit.
Totally. Most kids probably just think of them as that weird thing on pizza.
Exactly. But it's a great way to introduce the idea that sometimes our everyday categories aren't the whole story. Botanically speaking, an olive is a fruit. And teaching kids that early on can help them think outside the box and realize that there are different ways to classify things.
Yeah, it encourages them to question those assumptions, which is so important. Okay, so we've got olives. What else?
Let's see, we've got a papaya sliced open to show those distinctive black seeds, a whole pineapple and a sliced one, a dark plum, and a vibrant red pomegranate.
Man, they really didn't hold back.
Not at all. And then they even included prunes, which, are just dried plums. But it's another way to show kids that fruit can come in different forms. We've also got a large, light green pomelo, a classic red raspberry with its leaves, a rather unique-looking red, bell-shaped fruit called a rose apple, and then a brown sapodilla, and finally the very spiky green soursop. It really is quite a journey through the world of fruit.
It's a lot to take in. And this is all just on flashcards.
Right. Imagine seeing all these fruits in person.
So one thing that really stood out to me was the way they grouped some of these fruits together. You mentioned earlier, like blueberry, banana, and cherry. That's a pretty standard kid-friendly trio. But then we have lime, lychee, and longan together.
Wow.
Or loquat, mandarin, and melon. What do you make of these combinations? Are they just random, or is there a strategy here?
That's where we start to see the potential teaching strategies at work. These groupings might be designed to encourage comparison and contrast, like take the lime, lychee, and longan group. They're all relatively small and might have a similar sweetness or tartness. It could spark a conversation about different kinds of sweet and sour flavors. And then with loquat, mandarin, and melon, you've got a wider range of textures and sizes. It's going beyond just naming the fruit and into observing those subtle differences.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like teaching them to pay attention to details, not just the obvious stuff.
Exactly. And that kind of attention to detail can be applied to so many things in life.
So some of these other combinations are even more intriguing. Like we've got mango, mangosteen, and mulberries. That's a real mix of textures, colors, and probably flavor intensities. Then there's orange, nectarine, and olives. That one still throws me off a bit.
It makes you think, right?
Yeah. It forces you to reconsider what makes a fruit a fruit. And then there's plum, pomegranate, and prunes, which is a cool way to show the connection between fresh and dried fruit. Raspberry, rose apple, and pomelo, another unexpected mix of shapes and potential flavors. And finally, rhubarb, sapodilla, and soursop. That's a trio that might introduce some interesting sour and unusual tastes.
Totally. These combinations are definitely pushing beyond the obvious. They're not just grouping all the red fruits or all the round fruits together. They're inviting a deeper level of engagement. Like with the olive example, putting that with oranges and nectarines might subtly introduce the idea of different levels of sweetness or tartness within the fruit category.
Right. It's not just about learning the names. It's about learning to think critically about these categories. Okay, so we've explored the world of fruit, but these flashcards also have a pretty impressive vegetable selection. How does it compare to all the exotic fruits we've seen? Does it stick to the basics, or are there some surprises there too?
Well, similar to the fruits, the vegetables start off with some familiar favorites. The kind of things most kids have probably seen on their dinner plates. There's asparagus, a nice neat bundle of green spears, and then a pile of those long, slender green beans. And then we've got that vibrant red beet, both whole and sliced, so you can see those rings inside.
Yeah, beets are always fun to look at.
Right. And then there's a classic orange carrot, a bunch of celery stalks with the leaves still attached, a juicy ear of corn partially wrapped in its husk, and of course, a long, smooth green cucumber. These are like your vegetable all-stars.
Solid foundation. So we've got our basics covered. What about leafy greens? Those can sometimes be a tough sell for kids.
They've got a good variety here, which is encouraging. There's a bundle of those broad, dark green collared leaves, some light green frilly endives, a bunch of curly, vibrant green kale, some loose, crisp green lettuce leaves, and the distinct shape of mustard green leaves.
So they're not shying away from the greens.
Nope, which is great because including a range of leafy greens is super important for introducing kids to different textures and nutritional benefits. It's not all about carrots and potatoes.
Totally. Expanding those horizons early on.
Yeah.
Okay, what about root vegetables? Those are often a hit with kids, maybe because they grow underground and have that mystery factor.
Yeah, the hidden treasure thing. Well, they've got a simple white parsnip, a familiar brown potato, and then, this is cool, both a round red and white radish with its green top, and then a long white daikon radish.
Oh yeah, I forgot about daikon.
It's a nice touch because featuring two different kinds of radishes shows that even within one type of vegetable, there can be a ton of variety in shape, color, and taste.
Yeah, that's subtle, but it's an important point. Like, it's not just, here's a radish, end of story.
Yeah.
There's a whole world of radishes out there.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got our staples, our leafy greens, our roots. What else is going on in the vegetable lineup?
Well, the rest of the vegetables are a pretty fascinating mix. There's a green artichoke, which is kind of an unusual one to include. It's that intriguing flower bud. And then we've got a light green ridged chayote squash, a bulb of garlic, a little cluster of mushrooms, some slender green okra pods, and both a brown onion and a red and purple shallot.
Oh, that's nice, showing the different varieties of onion.
Right. It's all about those subtle distinctions.
Okay, keep going. What else?
Well, there are peas still in their pod, a bright orange pumpkin, so they're mixing in some squash varieties too, a whole red cabbage, and a halved one, showing that beautiful purple inside, a vibrant red pepper, a long pale salsify.
Salsify, huh? That's not one you hear every day.
Nope. It's a root vegetable, sometimes called oyster plant because it supposedly has a mild oyster flavor. And then we've got a classic red tomato, both whole and sliced, a white and purple turnip, delicate watercress with its little green leaves, a sleek dark green zucchini, and a brown yam. It's another really comprehensive selection.
Wow. Okay, so just like with the fruits, they really went all out with the vegetables. And I noticed that they also have some pretty unique vegetable groupings on these flashcards. Like, what's the deal with that?
Right. The vegetable trios are pretty interesting. They definitely raise some questions about the learning objectives here. Like we see corn, chayote, and collards grouped together. Maybe they're highlighting vegetables that are often cooked. And then there's fennel, endives, and garlic. That combination kind of screams aromatic flavors, like ingredients you might use together in cooking. Then we've got lettuce, mustard green, and mushroom that's like a potential salad combo right there, introducing the idea of raw vegetables.
I like that they're showing different ways to prepare and eat these vegetables.
Definitely. And then there's potato, pumpkin, and parsnip, which is a clear focus on root vegetables. Even though, as we mentioned earlier, pumpkin is technically a fruit, it's often used like a vegetable in cooking, so they're kind of blurring those lines a bit.
Yeah, it's a good example of how these cards are teaching about both botanical classifications and culinary categories.
Exactly. And then we have radish, radicchio, and red cabbage, a colorful mix of reds and purples. Maybe they're focusing on color recognition here. Then red pepper, salsify, and rutabaga, another interesting combo of textures and flavors. Turnip, tomato, and watercress again, quite a diverse trio. And lastly, zucchini, yam, root. That repetition of root is a pretty clear indicator that they're trying to teach about categorization.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So they're really going beyond just, naming those vegetables and encouraging these little ones to start thinking about how those different vegetables might be similar or different.
It's like laying the groundwork for a more sophisticated understanding of food. Okay, so these flashcards are for kids age 3 and up. And that's a really critical time for development. Like, their brains are just soaking everything up. What do you think of the benefits of doing these kinds of matching activities with kids this age?
Well, matching activities are super important for early cognitive development. They help build those visual discrimination skills, the ability to spot similarities and differences between images. And that's crucial for things like literacy later on. It also strengthens memory and concentration as kids try to remember where they saw that matching image. And then, of course, in this specific case, they're building vocabulary related to food.
Right, so it's not just about matching shapes and colors. It's about connecting those visuals with the names of these fruits and vegetables.
Exactly.
And they've got that About Me page, which I thought was a really nice touch. It's like making it personal, getting those kids involved. How do you think that contributes to the learning process?
I think that About Me page is really smart because it adds that element of personal connection and active participation. By having the kid fill in information about themselves and maybe draw or write about their favorite fruits and veggies, it makes the learning experience more engaging and relevant to their own lives. And that sense of ownership can really boost their retention. They're not just passively looking at pictures, they're actively thinking about their own preferences and experiences with food.
Yeah, it becomes more meaningful to them.
Exactly.
One thing that really struck me about these flashcards was the sheer variety they offer. We talked about it with the fruits, but it's true for the vegetables too.
Yeah.
Like introducing things like mangosteen, soursop, salsify, chayotes. Those aren't exactly staples in most preschools. What do you think is the impact of exposing kids to such a wide range of foods at such a young age?
I think it's hugely beneficial. It normalizes the idea of a diverse diet from the get-go. Even if a kid doesn't try those less common foods right away, they become familiar with their names, how they look, and that can lead to greater openness to trying new things down the road. It also subtly introduces the concept that food comes in many different forms and from all over the world, fostering a broader understanding of culture and the environment.
It's like planting the seeds for a more adventurous and informed approach to food.
Absolutely.
So, aside from the fruits and vegetables themselves, I noticed some other interesting visuals on these flashcards. Like, there's a cute cartoon, bunch of green grapes with a smiling face, and then a pretty idyllic scene with a basket overflowing with colorful produce. What role do you think those kinds of visuals play?
I think those visuals are all about creating a positive and inviting association with fruits and vegetables. The cartoon grapes make produce seem friendly and fun, less intimidating for a child who might be hesitant about trying new things. And those idyllic scenes create a sense of abundance and maybe even connect those foods to nature and a healthy lifestyle. It's all about making the learning experience enjoyable and creating positive emotional connections with healthy eating.
Yeah, it's like setting the stage for a lifelong love of fruits and vegetables.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this set of preschool flashcards, it's clear that they're way more than just simple picture cards.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They offer a really comprehensive introduction to an incredible range of fruits and vegetables, blending the familiar with the exotic and those interactive elements like the matching activities and the personalized About Me page. They really make learning about food fun and engaging for young children.
It's amazing to think about the impacts something as simple as a set of flashcards can have. Like, they're not just teaching kids about specific fruits and vegetables, they're shaping their entire outlook on food and nutrition.
Absolutely. It's like they're planting these seeds of curiosity and wonder that can blossom into a lifelong appreciation for healthy eating and a more adventurous palate.
Well said. So for all of you listening out there, we'd love to hear your thoughts. How were you introduced to different kinds of fruits and vegetables as a child? Did your early experiences shape your current relationship with food? Let us know. And until next time, keep on